The Nintendo Switch has quickly become the hottest selling video game system today, and it's easy to see why. There's so many great games on the system, and you can take it with you anywhere as well as play it at home. And 2020 is a very special year for Nintendo because it marks the 35th anniversary of Super Mario Bros. On the Nintendo Entertainment System. Since earlier this year, fans have been wondering what Nintendo's plans were for Mario's 35th anniversary. But unfortunately, as you all know, the world was hit pretty bad by the pandemic. This definitely has impacted video game development for virtually the entire industry. Since March this year, Nintendo has released a handful of first-party exclusives. Animal Crossing New Horizons, which is now the fastest selling game of all time, selling over 20 million copies worldwide, and in less than 6 months on top of that. There was also Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, Clubhouse games, and in the summer there was Paper Mario The Origami King. But that was about it for first-party games. For most of the spring and summer, the Switch was filled with third-party games like Streets of Rage 4, Shantae and the Seven Sirens, and ports like BioShock and Borderlands. Since May this year, rumors and reports started circulating that Nintendo would release a Super Mario 3D collection later this year to commemorate the 35th anniversary. Now, when I first heard that rumor, I was kinda skeptical because Nintendo rarely does compilations, especially nowadays with like Virtual Console and now the Nintendo Switch Online subscription service. Nintendo nowadays likes to release their retro content on their subscription services, and they're very slow when it comes to that. And honestly, it sounded too good to be true. The last compilations Nintendo did over the years was way back on the Super Nintendo in '93 with Super Mario All-Stars, which were like full 16-bit remakes. Then there was the Zelda Collector's Edition on the GameCube, and then they re-released Super Mario All-Stars on the Wii for the 25th anniversary, which really was just a ROM inside a disc. And then finally there was Kirby's Dream Collection, which is probably one of the best compilation games of all time that came out in like 2012. But as the months went by, the rumors started to develop, and then Nintendo had not announced pretty much anything throughout the months of like June, July, August. They were pretty much quiet during those months, and they would just shadow drop announcements like Pikmin 3, and they would announce like Nintendo Direct partner showcases, and fans were mixed about those, but that's pretty much it. With September fast approaching and no major announcement from Nintendo in sight, there was some doubt that Nintendo would do something special for Mario's 35th anniversary. But then, on September 3rd, 2020, the biggest bombshell was dropped. The Mario 35th Anniversary Direct, and boy did they go all out. Super Mario 3D World for Wii U, Super Mario Bros. 35, a Mario Kart augmented reality game of some sort, and then the big one, the rumors were finally true. Super Mario 3D All-Stars was coming to the Switch on September 18th, 2020. And now, here it is. I bought it the day after, and now I have been playing it ever since. As you can tell by the name of the title, it borrows the namesake of the 16-bit Super Nintendo remake collection, Super Mario All-Stars. But despite the name, these are not full built from the ground up remakes like say Crash Bandicoot N Sane Trilogy or Spyro Reignited. These are the same original games you played 24 years ago, 18 years ago, and 13 years ago respectively. Now the next two questions you're going to ask, are they remasters or are they straight ports? Well, technically they're not either one of these. In fact, this is actually an emulation collection. Now you're probably hearing that and going, wow, that is very disappointing. But even though they're ROM/ISOs running on emulators, they look absolutely amazing. Well, at least two of them anyway. The games in this collection are Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. In terms of extras, you get a bonus soundtrack and that's it. I know other compilation titles like the Mega Man Legacy Collection series, the Sonic Mega Collection from years back, and the recent Street Fighter Anniversary Collection had more extras. But that being said, I don't think this collection is bad at all. I think it's a great collection. Do I think this collection could have been better? Absolutely. But I love this collection and I personally think it's worth it. But before I get to the question whether you think it's worth it or not, I'm gonna go over each individual game and see how well they look in this collection. First up is Super Mario 64. Now, this game needs no introduction. Everyone and their mother knows what Super Mario 64 is. It revolutionized video games and platforming, and it was responsible for many 3D games we see today. This was the first time Mario could do so many moves he never did before, like he could flip jump, he could wall kick, he could dive. Mario had the most versatile moveset any video game mascot had at the time. Not even Crash Bandicoot could compete with that. When I was a kid, when I first saw the Nintendo 64 at a local store in Chinatown, Brooklyn, my mind was blown. I was really blown away by the graphics at the time. Going from 16-bit to that, it was astounding. When I played the N64 and Super Mario 64, along with other titles of course, I really wanted an N64. I really wanted to play Super Mario 64, and I wouldn't get it until Christmas of 1999. I had a Sega Saturn first, so I grew up with that before I got an N64. Playing Mario 64 today, however, it's one of my least favorite games to go back to. Mainly because of the camera controls, like they're way too funky for me today, and I'm used to 360-degree analog camera controls nowadays. But how is Super Mario 64 in Super Mario 3D All-Stars? First off, they really improved the graphics and resolution here. It now bumps up to 720p and it looks much more crisper and cleaner. It looks way better than on the Wii and Wii U Virtual Console, which had that blurry, dark, and muddy image they had. I don't know why they did that. I think they did that to prevent seizure concerns. Most especially, this looks way better than the N64 original, which ran at 240p. Let me ask you this, have you played N64 games on a real stock N64 console lately? It looks really bad, especially on a modern HD display. Like the N64 didn't even support RGB like the Super Nintendo did. At best it supported S-Video, and even then the N64's video quality looked really muddy. N64 games had this really awful anti-aliasing effect, and that somehow made 240p games look much worse. Thankfully, there are emulation options that make the games look much better, but the problem is a lot of N64 emulators are very glitchy and don't run the games properly. Anyway, I'm getting a bit off topic here. Back to Mario 64. One thing I love about this version of Mario 64 is that not only did all the polygons got a resolution bump, even some of the textures got a resolution bump as well. Like they improved Mario's eyes and the M on his cap, the faces on the Womps and the Thwomps, and even the HUD. That being said, there are some textures in the game that still look blurry. And even though this is much better than the N64 original and the Virtual Console versions, this version itself could have been better. Right off the bat when you start the game, you notice the very first problem. It's not widescreen, it's 4:3. Why couldn't they make it widescreen? N64 emulators have been able to make games run in widescreen. Not only that, there were even some native N64 games that had widescreen support back in the day, like Perfect Dark and Donkey Kong 64. Also, why is this 720p docked? Why couldn't they bump it up to 1080p? I mean, this is an old ass game. This game came out 24 years ago. It could easily run on the Switch in 1080p. Also, I don't know if this has to do with the ROM's frame rate being hard coded to the gameplay, but it would be cool if this version ran at a full 60 frames per second instead of 30 frames per second. Since this is technically a ROM running on an emulator, the camera controls are exactly the same. They're just remapped to the right analog stick on the right Joy-Con, which means you still get the janky camera controls here. Would be cool if they added full 360-degree camera control, but what can you do? Also, fun fact, this is not the original 1996 version of Super Mario 64. In fact, this is actually the Japan-only Shindo edition that got released in 1997. Now, what is the Shindo edition, you ask? Well, to boil it down, it's the same exact game, but it supports Rumble Pack. I mean, it makes sense that Nintendo would choose this version instead of the original because they want something to take advantage of the built-in rumble on the Switch's Joy-Cons and the Pro Controller. The original Mario 64 did not support Rumble Pack at all. In fact, Rumble Pack wasn't even a thing until 1997. And another thing you should know is that Nintendo directly translated the Shindo edition from Japanese to English. And if you didn't know this already, Bowser is not called Bowser in Japan, he is simply called King Koopa. And I think you know where this is going from here. One of Mario's iconic catchphrases from this game was "So long, Bowser." He doesn't say that in the game for obvious reasons. Instead, he says "bye-bye." Of course, this leaves a lot of fans not happy, but you know who hates this version the most? The speedrunning community. See, Mario 64 speedrunners like to do the backwards long jump to complete the game without getting all the stars. When you did the backwards long jump in the original Mario 64, a sort of glitch happens where he sort of zips backwards in a very weird way. This allows you to skip the endless stairs at the end of the game without collecting 70 stars. Because of this, speedrunners absolutely hate the Shindo edition. They freaking loathe it. Though, I find it funny that the backwards long jump was patched, but not all the other glitches in the game. Like, you can still go through an invisible wall outside of Peach's castle. But yeah, this is the Shindo edition of Mario 64. Moving on to Super Mario Sunshine. Now, I haven't played Mario Sunshine in a very, very long time. Not since, of course, this collection came out. A lot of people didn't really like this game back then for a multitude of reasons. People didn't like the F.L.U.D gameplay mechanics, the controls didn't feel as well to some people, and it wasn't as groundbreaking as Super Mario 64 was. And really, it all boils down to the fact that Mario Sunshine was on the GameCube, a Nintendo console that was not very well received at the time. Remember, this was the early 2000s, when gaming was at its hardcore and edgy phase with like mature games like Grand Theft Auto, Halo, and Max Payne, and a bunch of first-person shooters. Games that were kiddie and quirky like Mario and Luigi's Mansion and all that were pretty much frowned upon, at least in the US. The only kid games and mascot games that got over were like Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank, both of which had this cool and edgy look to it. I personally love the GameCube. The GameCube is one of the greatest consoles of all time, a very, very underrated system, but I can also see why it failed. Now, when Mario Sunshine came out, I absolutely hated it. But I also hated it for the wrong reasons. You see, in 2002, I was 15 years old. Growing up since Super Mario Bros. On the NES, and growing up to play more mature games and more teen-rated games, I was starting to lose interest in Mario. And Sonic was way cooler, especially with Sonic Adventure 2 and the introduction of Shadow. But how does grown-up 33-year-old me feel about this? The complete opposite. Long after I was done capturing this footage, I played Mario Sunshine more and more, and I kept telling myself, why do people hate this game? This game is freaking awesome. I can honestly say that Mario Sunshine is one of the best 3D Mario titles of all time. Now, is it perfect? Not quite. The camera uses a full 360 degrees, much better than Mario 64, but it's still kind of glitchy. There are other flaws, but those flaws aside, Super Mario Sunshine is very underrated. It's also one of the harder Mario titles, which is probably the biggest reason why I love this game. Honestly, I feel that this deserves a full review sometime in the future. Anyway, I'll try to explain the plot as briefly as I can. So Mario, Peach, Toad, and a couple of other Toads are going on vacation to an island called Isle Delfino. And then Princess Peach notices something suspicious on the video. She notices an evil Mario jumping around. When they get there, they're surrounded by this dangerous goop. Then Mario meets F.L.U.D for the first time and cleans up all that goop, but then gets arrested for a crime he did not commit. Turns out he was frauded by the evil Shadow Mario. Mario is found guilty by the Pianta people, and as a punishment, he is forced to clean up all of Isle Delfino and all of the surrounded areas, as well as collect all the shine sprites. That's basically the story of the game. Also, this is the debut of Bowser Jr. Anyway, that's enough about the game. How's Super Mario Sunshine on 3D All-Stars? This looks even better than Mario 64. It looks absolutely amazing. They boosted the resolution tremendously, and this one actually supports widescreen. Now Mario Sunshine runs at a native 1080p, docked only of course. Handheld mode is 720p. Now with all that being said, even though it looks much better than the GameCube original, the GameCube original still looks fantastic to this day. And it's not just the graphics I'm talking about, the video quality as well. Unlike the N64, which was only limited to composite and S-video, the GameCube also supported component cables. And some games supported native 480p, Mario Sunshine being one of them. You can also play GameCube games in native 480p on the Wii since it's backwards compatible, and the Wii supports much cheaper component cables. You can also play GameCube games on the Wii U, but that requires hacking and you can't play official GameCube discs, only through ISOs. What makes the GameCube even better nowadays is that the original Doll 001 model has a digital output. This is where the GameCube component cables go, which converted the signal from digital to analog. Now, it did make the GameCube component cables much more expensive in retrospect, but with modern displays and modern technology, it opened up the possibilities of unlocking the true potential of the GameCube's video output. So now, real GameCube games look absolutely fantastic in native 480p and in HDMI using a special adapter. These modern GameCube adapters are way cheaper than the official component cables nowadays. Still, Mario Sunshine in 3D All-Stars is a tremendous improvement over the GameCube original. Now with that being said, playing Mario Sunshine in HD has been done before, on an unofficial emulator known as Dolphin. And since this is an emulation collection, Mario Sunshine here looks exactly the same as playing it on the Dolphin Emulator on a gaming PC. But you know what makes this special compared to playing it on a PC emulator? The Switch is a handheld, and you can play Mario Sunshine with you anywhere on the go. Now of course there are laptop PCs, but they're not exactly handhelds. Plus they're much more expensive than a $300 Switch. I'll talk more about this at the end of the video. Also, since this is an emulation collection, the glitches when playing Mario Sunshine on the Dolphin Emulator are here as well. For example, the debug cubes in the secret areas and the brief slowdown when pressing the Z button to check the menus, which is now the L button. Now you're probably wondering, how do the F.L.U.D controls work in this version? If you don't remember the GameCube, the controller used analog shoulder buttons in lieu of two separate shoulder buttons, you know, like the PlayStation 2, which had L1, L2, R1, R2. Instead, the GameCube relied on analog pressure L and R shoulder buttons. Sadly, not many games took advantage of this, but Mario Sunshine was one of them. If you press the R button lightly, Mario would spray water while moving around. The amount of water coming out depended on how lightly you press the R button. But if you press the R button all the way down, Mario's movement locks and you can spray water all around in any direction while moving the analog stick. This was a pretty interesting quirk at the time, though it was probably the reason why many people were turned off by Mario Sunshine. Since none of the Switch controllers support even analog triggers, Nintendo cleverly mapped the F.L.U.D controls as two separate buttons. So now you press ZR to spray water while moving around and R to lock on and spray water in any direction. Like with Mario 64, you can zoom the camera and look around with the analog stick. This is much better than looking around with the 4 C buttons. But for some strange reason, you have to move around with the left analog stick instead of the right one, which is very strange to me. Also, the camera zoom and the F.L.U.D lock-on controls are inverted from the GameCube original, but honestly, that didn't bother me, and I got used to that. Even though Mario Sunshine looks gorgeous in 1080p, my biggest disappointment is that it does not run at 60 frames per second. What's also disappointing is that not only can you play Mario Sunshine at 60 frames per second on the Dolphin Emulator, you can also do that on native hardware, on a hacked Wii or Wii U that is. See, you need to install an app called Nintendo to play GameCube ISOs on the Wii or Wii U. You can't do that on the GameCube. The Nintendo app allows you to play all GameCube games at 60 frames per second. Also, it would be pretty cool if they added native GameCube support for docked and tabletop modes. And last but not least, Super Mario Galaxy, the best game in this collection by far. You know, it's crazy to think how this game is almost 15 years old. This game came out in 2007, the very same year I started this YouTube channel. And I was 20 years old at the time. Wow. This game takes me way back when I got my Wii in Christmas of 2007, along with this game and WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. Like with most people, I fell for the initial Wii hype. I really wanted a Wii because I really wanted to swing the Wii remote like a sword or a baseball bat, and even use the Wii remote as a gun, as well as a nunchuck as dual wielding guns. But I also wanted the Wii to play Super Mario Galaxy because it looks so different and so unique from 64 and Sunshine, and I really wanted to play it. I really love the space atmosphere and how you can run around planets and go upside down and not fall off the planet, which is really cool. Like everyone, I got bored of the Wii's motion control novelty, but I stayed purely for all the great exclusive games it was getting in the long run. While the Wii had the most innovative controller ever created, it was also the weakest of the 7th generation consoles. Woefully underpowered compared to the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Obviously, it was done to make it as cheap as possible, and because it was targeting a different, more casual audience. The Wii was basically an overclocked GameCube with motion controls. In fact, its hardware is based on the exact same architecture from the GameCube. But even though the Wii was an overclocked GameCube, some games really pushed the graphical fidelity of the system, and Super Mario Galaxy was one of them. Galaxy on the Wii looked absolutely beautiful. Like it almost looked like an Xbox 360 game in a way. The detail, the shading, the beautiful colors, the vibrant environments, all of that simply looked breathtaking. I've never seen a Mario game look this good before. It really was that fantastic. This was a 480p game and it almost looked HD. As for how well Mario Galaxy played, it utilized the Wii Remote and Nunchuck's motion control and point and click capabilities, and it utilized them very well. For motion controls, the best examples of this were the ray surfing and the ball from hell, which felt like it was using some kind of gyro motion controls. You could also waggle the Wii Remote to do Mario's spin attack, but that was just tacked on. That could easily be done with a press of a button. The pointer is used for collecting star bits, feeding hungry Lumas, pulling Mario with the pull star, and blowing Mario when he's inside the bubble in one of the galaxies. Now, even though the motion controls work really well, not everyone likes Mario Galaxy because of this. There are people who don't like motion controls at all, no matter how well it works. So with that all being said, how good is Super Mario Galaxy on 3D All-Stars? First up, let's look at the obvious, the resolution. Mario Galaxy on 3D All-Stars looks absolutely gorgeous in HD, and like Mario Sunshine, it's native 1080p when docked. Thanks to the resolution bump, Mario Galaxy's already beautiful visuals really start to glow. I mean, just look at it. It looks just like a game you'd see come out on the Switch today. 13 years and this game has not aged one bit. Now, if you're comparing this with playing on the Dolphin Emulator like with Mario Sunshine, it really doesn't look that different. But like I said with Mario Sunshine earlier, you get the bonus of playing Mario Sunshine on the go and in HD. Either way, when you're playing Mario Sunshine on this or on the Dolphin Emulator, it really makes you wonder what the Wii could have been if it was an HD console like the PS3 and Xbox 360. I imagine Mario Galaxy would have wowed people even more so. But how well does Mario Galaxy play on 3D All-Stars? Since the Wii had a very different controller, obviously some changes were gonna be made, especially for playing in handheld mode. Overall, people are mixed about these controls, but I personally think they play very well. I know some people don't like these controls, but I think they play perfectly, or almost perfectly. When using the Joy-Con separately and strapped to your wrist, it plays like the Wiimote and Nunchuck. Both are used for motion controls, but the right Joy-Con is used for the pointer. Now I know what you're thinking, how does it do that when the Switch doesn't have a sensor bar? Well, thanks to the gyro motion controls on the Switch, it can be used for point and click without the need of a sensor bar. And unlike the Wii original where you couldn't use the Classic Controller or Classic Controller Pro, you can actually use the Switch Pro controller as well since it has all the functionalities as the Switch Joy-Cons do. Yeah, you can even point and click with the Pro controller. It feels kinda funny at first, but it plays really well. Now if the cursor goes way off the screen and disappears, you can bring it back by pressing the R button. You don't have to keep waggling it like the original Wii version in hopes of it coming back. In the Nvidia Shield port that only came out in China, you could move the cursor with the right analog stick. Sadly, this is not an optional feature for those who don't like the motion controls. Hated shaking the Wii remote to do spin attacks? Well, I got good news for you. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just simply press the Y button. So that's how Mario Galaxy plays in docked and tabletop mode, but how does it play in handheld mode? Allow me to describe it in the best way possible. Imagine playing Super Mario Galaxy on the PlayStation Vita, and it utilizes both the buttons and the touchscreen functionality. That's basically what this is. It plays exactly the same as in docked mode with one big exception, the pointer controls. So stuff like collecting star bits, pulling Mario with the pull star, flinging him in space, and blowing bubbles all utilize the multi-touch screen. You can move around the cursor by moving your fingers, or you can simply tap the screen. Now some people find this awkward, but I actually like playing Mario Galaxy this way. It feels like I'm playing a hybrid of a mobile game and a handheld game. Now you still need to use the gyro motion controls for the ray surfing and the ball from hell, even in handheld mode. But since those are the most minimal times you need to use motion controls, I had fun playing Mario Galaxy in handheld mode. The only time I had frustration is during the Boo race, where you had to touch the pull stars. I was not fast enough there. So now that I've covered all three games briefly, what about extras? Well, you get the individual soundtracks of each game, and that's basically it. This is like when Nintendo re-released Super Mario All-Stars on the Wii and included a bonus CD, except here the bonus music is included in the game, rather than a separate disc. In handheld mode, you can turn off the screen and listen to the music as if you were listening to it on a smartphone, which is pretty cool, but not really practical for most people. So yeah, in terms of extras, Super Mario 3D All-Stars is the most bare-bones compilation game you could possibly get. The presentation looks beautiful, but there's not much else aside from the games and the soundtracks. So here are my final thoughts. First, let's get the big one out of the way. Where the hell is Super Mario Galaxy 2? This was the biggest disappointment I and everyone else had since this was announced. I honestly have no idea why they left out Galaxy 2. I think it's probably because of how they changed the controls in Galaxy 1 in this collection. So maybe they're kind of testing the waters to see how well it was received, and then when they release Galaxy 2 in the future, they could tweak some things. Either that or they were just being lazy, but either way, I'm still really bummed out that there's no Mario Galaxy 2. To make matters worse, 2020 is the 10th anniversary of Mario Galaxy 2, so it's a huge missed opportunity here. Now the next big complaint that everyone else has brought up is the fact that it's a $60 emulation collection. Exactly the same price as their Switch exclusives and their Wii U ports. This price alone is what turned off a lot of people from buying this. I totally understand not paying that much for an emulation collection. That being said, I'm going to slightly defend this. I don't think $60 is that bad when you factor in a bunch of stuff. It's a $60 collection of 3 games and a soundtrack. When you break it down, the games are like $10, $15, $20 each depending on how old the games are. And if you compare them to how they're currently priced on the Wii U eShop, it's really not that bad. Mario 64 on the Wii U Virtual Console is $10, $9.99. Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2 are $20 each. If Mario Sunshine got released on the Wii U eShop, I imagine it would be somewhere in between the price of 64 and Galaxy/Galaxy 2. Like, I would say $14.99 or $15. When you add the prices together, you get around like $45 to $50. Add possible costs of the soundtrack and the Switch tax, since the Switch uses cartridges, you get pretty much $60. Now don't take this the wrong way, I think they could have priced it better or add more stuff to the collection, but otherwise I don't think $60 is that bad for this collection. Then again, I've also heard complaints that the prices of retro games on the Wii U eShop are also overpriced. Also, have you seen how much Super Mario Sunshine costs on eBay? Used? Go look it up, you're gonna be crying. Now I know what you're gonna say, well, why should I pay for all this when I can just download the ROMs and ISOs for free on the internet? Yes, you can play these games on emulators and get a much better experience on your PC, I'll give you that. But, like I've reiterated multiple times in this video, the main selling point of this collection is to be able to play these games on the go, on a handheld, and you cannot use a PC as a handheld unless you buy one of those really expensive portable PCs that can run games well. And yes, I know there's a version of Dolphin on Android which allows you to play GameCube and Wii games on a smartphone, but on cheaper smartphones, Dolphin doesn't run that well. I know, I have the Motorola Moto E6. Dolphin runs like ass on it. Super Smash Bros. Melee runs at an abysmally bad frame rate on it. My last phone, the LG G6, didn't run Dolphin any better either. So you need a much more expensive and reasonably powered phone to run Dolphin smoothly. As for cheaper dedicated portable emulators, PlayStation 1 and N64 are as far as they can go, and maybe Dreamcast if you're lucky. So of all the games on this collection, the only one you can play on those portable emulators is Mario 64. But portability aspect aside, not everyone likes to download ROMs and ISOs and plays emulators. Because with emulators you gotta set up a bunch of stuff, whereas if you buy a compilation or a game on the eShop or something, you can just play right away and that's it. I'm not gonna get into all the legalities of emulation because I understand why it exists. Piracy and emulation exists for a reason. It's the only way to preserve games that are no longer available to the public or have the potential to be removed from digital storefronts. Now the next complaint is, why are these the very same games we played years ago and not full-blown remakes like the Crash and Spyro remakes, or proper remasters like Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition? Let me tell you that I completely understand where you're coming from with this, but there's nothing wrong with playing the same old games we played years ago. It makes playing old games accessible on modern hardware. This is especially great for the average consumer who wants to play old games but don't want to buy retro systems or set up emulators. And really, of all the games in this collection, the only game that truly deserves the remake treatment is Mario 64. It's the only game in this collection that has aged significantly considering the generation it came from. Sunshine and Galaxy still look beautiful to this day. They still look very much modern. Maybe fix all the glitches, fix the controls and the camera a bit, and add 60 frames per second to Sunshine, but other than that, those two games still hold up very well today. Funnily enough, Mario 64 did get a remake on the Nintendo DS way back in 2004, and it was a launch title for the handheld. You're probably thinking, why didn't they include that version instead of the original Mario 64? Well, you see, considering that this is an emulation collection, it would be much harder to emulate DS games since the DS used dual screens. For Mario 64 DS to work on the Switch, Nintendo needs to properly port it and reprogram everything to get rid of the dual screen functionality. And that would require extra effort for this collection, which Nintendo clearly does not want to do. I think the main reason why some people were expecting this to be full remakes is because of the recent unofficial PC port that came out in the summer this year. See, back in May or June, I think, a lot of Nintendo stuff was leaked, including Mario 64's source code. Someone took that source code and reverse engineered to have Mario 64 run on PC. It's not emulated, it's ported. Thanks to the unofficial PC port of Mario 64, mods have surfaced, adding 60 frames per second support, 4K and even 8K support, and complete graphical overhauls, and it looks absolutely amazing. Seriously, go check out the YouTube channel Unreal. He has some amazing Mario 64 PC videos. Lastly, I want to talk about the most disappointing kick in the balls thing about Mario 3D All-Stars. It's only available for a limited time. Now, I understand the physical version being limited since the physical market appeals to a more niche audience and not necessarily the masses, because the masses buy more games digitally these days. But even the digital version is limited as well. That doesn't make sense. Why are you limiting the digital version? Super Mario 3D All-Stars is only available for a limited time until March 31st, 2021. That is the last day you can get it. Let's see, it came out on September 18th. It's October. It's middle of October. That means you have less than 6 months to get Super Mario 3D All-Stars from now until March 31st. So you better save up if you plan on getting this game for the holidays, and if you have any birthdays from now until then, that's a good time to get it too. Now, I don't know what Nintendo's plans are for when the deadline comes. Maybe they plan on re-releasing the games individually, or maybe they want to raise up demand, and if it sells really well, they'll drop the deadline and sell it permanently. Either way, I highly recommend getting it now if you really want it, because you're better safe than sorry. So, now that I've covered pretty much everything I've needed to cover about Super Mario 3D All-Stars, now comes the $1 million question. Is Super Mario 3D All-Stars worth buying? Well, I say yes, but only if you want to play Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy on the go. That's it. If you want the portable version of Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy, get this collection. I know a lot of port beggars have been dying to play those games on the go, so you should definitely pick up this collection. But if you really want a much better collection, look elsewhere. I'm Allie-RX, and I'll see you on the other side.